Most people think the prison is outside of them. Government, society, the system, the matrix. Pick your flavor. They point outward because it's easier. It feels empowering to name an enemy you don't have to confront internally. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. The real prison guard is inside your own damn head. And the most efficient jailer ever designed is not an external tyrant, corporation, or ideology. It's the ego, not ego as confidence, not ego as self-esteem, not ego as having a personality, but ego as a structure, a psychological mechanism whose sole function is to preserve the identity you already are, even if that identity is stale, dysfunctional, or quietly killing your growth. The ego is not interested in your liberation. It is interested in continuity. This is where the concept of the Demiurge becomes useful, not as mythology, not as superstition, but as inner mechanics. The Demiurge is not some red-eyed demon sitting in another dimension pulling levers. That image is a distraction. The Demiurge is the organizing principle of false order. It is the force that keeps consciousness locked in repetition, fragmentation, and illusion while convincing you that this is freedom. It governs limitation disguised as choice, autonomy that never threatens the structure, movement that never leaves the cage. And your ego is its most loyal employee. See, the ego doesn't exist to free you. It exists to stabilize you. And stability sounds nice until you realize it's stabilizing fear, addiction, resentment, half-lived potential, a life that looks acceptable on the outside and feels dead on the inside. The ego doesn't ask, is this life aligned? It asks, is this familiar? Because familiarity feels like safety. And safety is the ego's highest value. That's why people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, habits that rot them slowly instead of killing them fast. Not because they're stupid, not because they lack willpower, but because the ego equates survival with sameness. Change feels like death to the ego, and in a very real sense it is. The ego is a construct built out of memory, conditioning, social reinforcement, and emotional scar tissue. Every time you were rewarded for fitting in, it strengthened. Every time you were punished for authenticity, it hardened. Over time, it assembles itself like a cage that convinces you it's your home. The Demiurge doesn't need to control you directly when your ego will do it for free. Every time you feel the impulse to grow and immediately hear an internal voice saying, that's unrealistic. Who do you think you are? Now's not the right time. Be grateful for what you have. That's not intuition. That's the prison guard clearing his throat. The ego maintains order by narrating reality for you. It labels, it categorizes, it assigns meaning before you ever have a chance to experience truth directly. This narration creates the illusion of control, but it also seals perception. You don't see reality as it is. You see what the ego allows you to see. And the ego works over time to ensure you never question the frame it depends on. The demiurgic structure thrives on this because a consciousness trapped in identity is predictable, manageable, harvestable. Predictable people consume on schedule, react on cue, rebel safely, never transcend. You think freedom is about breaking external chains, but the first chain you must break is internal narrative. Who you think you are, what you think is possible, what you think is allowed. The ego guards these assumptions like sacred law. It tells you growth must be slow, That discipline is punishment. That pleasure is relief. That transcendence is fantasy reserved for monks or madmen. And the wild part, it doesn't feel oppressive. It feels like you. That's how you know the cage is well designed. To escape the demiurge, you don't fight the ego directly. You observe it, because the moment you can watch the ego instead of being possessed by it, its authority begins to crack. And once that crack forms, the prison starts leaking light. The second you watch it instead of obey it, it panics. It scrambles for control. It floods your system with noise, distractions, rationalizations, emotional spikes, old memories, old identities, anything to pull you back into identification. This is why real inner work feels uncomfortable, not because something is wrong, not because you're doing damage, but because the prison guard realizes you're no longer asleep. The demiurge operates through unconsciousness. It requires you to believe your thoughts are you, your reactions are you, your impulses are you. The moment that belief weakens, the entire system destabilizes. This is where most people stop. They taste awareness for a moment, feel the tension rise, and retreat back into comfort, back into scrolling, back into substances, back into drama, back into bullshit. Not because they're weak, but because the ego is persuasive as hell. It whispers, relax. You've done enough work today. You don't need to go this deep. You'll figure this out later. Spiritual growth shouldn't feel this uncomfortable. That voice is lying to you. Transformation is uncomfortable because it threatens a structure that has kept you predictable. Here's the part people don't like to hear. The ego does not care about your happiness. It cares about continuity, and the demiurgic system doesn't need to punish you when it can keep you distracted. That's why indulgence is easy and discipline feels blocked. Why numbing behaviors flow smoothly while conscious effort meets resistance. Why low-value pleasure is frictionless and self-mastery feels like pushing uphill with weights on your ankles. The system is lubricated for unconsciousness. But here's the leverage point. The ego can only guard what you refuse to examine. Once you bring sustained attention to its patterns, it loses opacity. And once it loses opacity, it loses power. You begin to see the loops, the same emotional reactions, the same triggers, the same excuses wearing different outfits, different day, same script. And that's when sovereignty began, not when you defeat the ego, not when you destroy it, but when you stop letting it impersonate you. This is the escape route from the demiurge. You don't transcend the world, you transcend identification. You realize you are not the thoughts, not the reactions, not the impulses, not the stories. You are the awareness in which they arise, and awareness is not controllable by the system. That's why true freedom isn't loud. It's quiet, stable, unreactive. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't posture. It doesn't need validation. It simply stops participating in the illusion. The ego hates this because it loses relevance. The prison guard becomes unnecessary. And here's the humor in it, if you can see it. The gate was never locked. You were just convinced you needed permission to leave. The demiurge never had chains. It had narratives. And once you see through them, once you stop outsourcing authority to identity, once you accept the discomfort of awareness without running, the prison dissolves, not in some dramatic explosion, not with fireworks or applause, but in silence. And that silence, that's where real power lives. You don't escape the demiurge by fighting the world. You escape it by refusing to be governed by the voice that tells you who you are allowed to be. That's the real jailbreak. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.